Better go check on the almond crop, see how it's doing. Yeah, no. Still too early. Give it a while. So the first step in the harvest of trees is backing off on our water. We got to let them dry out just a little bit, get a little bit of stress going to them, and so that the nuts begin to dry up. The next step is timing wise, we have to tell when the almonds are ready to shake. And the way that we do that is we go out and we actually grab the branches and we can kind of shake them, and the nuts, we can tell if the nuts fall easily. And also another way we do it is making sure that that hole has split open and we can see that shell, and that shell's kind of dry, and you can actually shake the nut and you can hear the almond inside the shell kind of rattling around. We know it's time to go.
So these are how almonds grow on the tree. I'll have they're in a hole, and take the hole off, and they're in a shell. And you eat it.
So as you can see from that video, there's that machine. It's got kind of that claw, grabs that tree and shakes it, and all those nuts come falling off the tree. Now they're on the ground, and that's the first part of the step of the actual mechanical part of harvest is over. Next, we let them sit on the ground for a while. We want them to dry out, because if we send them to the huller and sheller while they're still kind of wet, they're gonna get cracked. It's gonna be a nightmare for the huller and sheller, and it's gonna be a nightmare for us, because it's gonna when they're soft like that and have that moisture to them, it's easy for them to break, and it's easy for them to crack and to get defects and things like that. So it's a nightmare for them, it's a nightmare for us, and so we want them as dry as possible going into the huller and sheller. But the drawback to that, we don't want them on the ground super long, because that's when the ants can come in. The red ants will come in and they'll eat the protein, they'll eat the nut. And so we don't want them on the ground for too long. So we'll usually try and keep them on the ground for about 5 to 7 days, depending on how long it takes them to dry. Now the next step after they've dried is to sweep them up. So as you can tell, that sweeper is going through and it's blowing all the nuts, because right now it can't sweep between the trees. And so it can sweep in the rows obviously, but it can't sweep between the trees in the row. And so it has big blowers, and it blows the almonds that fall down right next to the trees, it blows them into the next row over. And then the ones that fell into the row that it's able to sweep, it sweeps them up into the middle of that row. You saw those windrows in that video. So it sweeps them up into that windrow all the way down, and allows for the harvester to come through. So the next step is to have the harvester, the actual pickup machine, comes through, and it basically is sweeping up that windrow of nuts, blowing out all the leaves and all the excess stuff that the sweeper's picked up with it as best as it can. Then it loads them up into its own part of the built-in part of that pickup machine, it's got its own cart, or it's got its own elevator. And what that does is they have a cart that's hooked up to the back of that pickup machine, shoots them into that cart. Now there's what we call the nut carts, the transport carts, that are, all they do is they are driving around and they go up and they back in up against that cart that the pickup machine is pulling. And there's a lot of times there's like the ones that we use have a stop on them, that what happens is that cart bumps up against that and it actuates that cart to start shooting the nuts into the transport cart. And so it's all as it's going along. It's moving along. The pickup machine is basically shooting all the nuts into this transport cart. Once that transport cart's full, it'll drive up to our staging area where we've got our semi trucks and we've got the elevator that'll load the nuts into those trucks. That truck gets taken to the Huller and Sheller, next truck moves forward. That's the process of harvest. Thanks for watching, guys. Give it a thumbs up, comment if you have any questions. If you could, share it on your Facebook, share it on Instagram if you thought it was pretty cool. Maybe someone else on your Facebook or Instagram would think it's pretty cool as well.